सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Let us read the first two verses. Jnanam jneyam parignyata, jnanam jneyam parignyata, trividha karma chodana, trividha karma chodana, karanam karma karteti, karanam karma karteti, trividha karma sangraha, त्रिविधः कर्म संग्रहः। ज्ञानं कर्म च कर्ता च, ज्ञानं कर्म च कर्ता च, त्रिधैव गुणभेदतः, त्रिधैव गुणभेदतः। प्रोच्यते गुणसंख्याने, प्रोच्यते गुणसंख्याने, यथावच्छृणुतान्यपि, यथावच्छृणुतान्यपि। Jnanam karma cha karta cha. Jnanam the knowledge, karma the action, karta the agent of action. Tridha eva guna vedataha. These are also threefold according to the differences in gunas. Prochyate guna sankhyane. This is what is said in the guna sankhyanam in the scriptures of the Sankhyas. Yathavat shrunutanyapi. Arjuna, listen to them as I tell you, according to the scriptures and according to the reasoning. Continuing our morning discussion about the gunas, let me add a few more things also in our morning discussion. What we call the ego, or the individual self, is in fact made up of these two principles. Purusha and Prakriti. Translated as the person and the personality. So when I use the pronoun I refer to myself, which is what we call the ego, the individual self. But in fact, that I involves these two principles, the person and the personality, Purusha and Prakriti. The consciousness and the matter. Sometimes also use the word spirit and matter. So really, I am a combination of spirit and matter. What is this matter? As we saw in the morning, the personality consists of the body, sense organs, mind, intellect. So this personality consists of the body, sense organs, mind, intellect. This is what we call the personality, which is really made up of matter, or made up of, as we saw in the morning, the three gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas. the body, organs of action, organs of perception, mind, intellect. Let us say this is what our personality consists of. This morning we say that the body is made of tamas. The organs of action and the prana made of rajas, and organs of perception, mind, intellect, all of this is made of sattva. Sattva, rajas and tamas. Of these three gunas, they are called the gunas. Of these three gunas, our personality is made. Of which, from the tamas, our body, from the rajas, the organs of action and prana, from the sattva, the organs of perception, mind, intellect. As I said also, that the predominant aspect or predominant quality of rajas is activity. The predominant aspect or attribute of sattva is knowledge. And predominant quality of tamas is inaction. So as you know, our organs of perception, mind, intellect, all of these are organs of knowledge. Our organs of action and the prana, the vital air, are the faculties of action. And the body is of course that which houses all of this. So sattva, rajas and tamas. Of this, our personality is made. Also called prakriti or personality, which is material, also made of the five elements. So thus, you and I and all living beings are then a union of the spirit and matter, the consciousness and that which is matter. See, all of this is matter. Sattva, rajas, tamas. All of this is matter, of which you may say gross matter and subtle matter. So body is made of a matter which is gross, which is perceptible, whereas other things like organs of action, perception, mind, intellect, all of these also are made of matter, what we may call subtle matter. Nevertheless, the mind, intellect, all of this also is matter, and matter by itself is insentient. So we can see our body is sentient, our organs are sentient, mind, intellect is sentient. So there is something that in fact imparts sentiency to this. So the insentient is made sentient as though, and that is because the person, the Purusha, the consciousness, it is consciousness that imparts sentiency to the personality. Therefore, our body, our mind, all of these are sentient. Take the case of a fan. By itself, the fan is motionless, inactive. But in the presence of electricity, how the fan gets energized or enlivened and starts rotating. So if you do not know that there is something called electricity, we may feel apparently that it's a fan that is rotating by itself. But then those who know, they know that the fan does not rotate on its own account. Fan is able to rotate on account of the presence of electricity. We also say electricity does not rotate. Electricity does not make an effort really to rotate the fan. All the electricity is it is. In the presence of electricity, the fan, the motor gets energized and it starts rotating. And therefore, in that example of electricity and fan, electricity is merely there, its presence, and all the activities are in the fan. Here also, the consciousness of the spirit is just is. And in the presence of that, this personality, made up of all these different components, it gets analyzed, enlivened, and it performs actions. Therefore it is said that all activity, all experiences, all of these are at the level of the personality. Whereas at the level of the person, there is merely the presence. It's merely in the consciousness is. In the presence of consciousness, the presence of person, presence of self, we can call it. Self and non-self, that's another way also of saying this. Now this is very important to know. not knowing that there are two constituents, we take ourselves to be just one. And therefore normally entertain this delusion that this body is the self, because whatever appears sentient is taken to be the self, because I know that I am a conscious being, that I know. And therefore whatever appears to be sentient or conscious is automatically taken to be the self, and the body appears to be conscious or sentient. The mind, intellect, all of them appear to be sentient, and therefore they are naturally taken to be the self. And therefore this delusion obtains in my mind that the body is the self. I am the body, I am the mind, I am the intellect. This is called the identification. And thus I equate myself with this matter or the personality. As a result, all the limitations of personality are thought to be my limitations. All the activities take place at the level of personality, and I conclude that I am doing the activities. All the experiences also take place at the level of personality. I conclude that I am the experiencer. And therefore, by lumping these two together, not knowing the distinction between them, I conclude that I am the doer and I am the enjoyer, I am the experiencer. Therefore, the sense of doership, called kartrutvam, this is how it arises. Is this? So doership, enjoyership, all of these really belongs to the personality. What is the self? What is I? So this is the true meaning of the pronoun I. What am I truly? Truly I am nothing but this Purusha, person, or the consciousness. That is what I am. And this personality is what is there for the manifestation of the person, for the manifestation of the consciousness, just as the fan or the bulb are the vehicles for manifestation of electricity. So light can be there only when there is a union of the electricity and the filament in the bulb. Otherwise there cannot be light. Similarly also life can be there when there is union of this person and the personality of Purusha and Prakriti. Then there can be life. And therefore this matter, the Prakriti or the personality, is the medium through which the Purusha, the consciousness, expresses or manifests as life. Now, we should know the difference, that the person, the Atma or the self, is different from this Prakriti, the personality. It is necessary to know the distinction between the two, so that we do not confuse them for one for the other. Right now, I am confusing the matter, the personality, for the self, and therefore all the limitations that belong to the personality become my limitation. Therefore, I have this conclusion that I am a limited being. For example, body is subject to birth and death, and therefore taking the body to be myself, I conclude that I am subject to birth, I am subject to death, that I am a mortal being. In the intellect, there is a limitation of knowledge, there is ignorance, and on account of taking the intellect as I conclude that I am an ignorant being. The capacities of the mind are limited, capacities of the body are limited, the capacity of Prakriti, personality, is limited, and therefore I take myself to be a limited being. What happens is, there are many personalities. Now, what is it that explains the variety in this universe? That this personality, which is a product of the three gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas. So different combinations of these three gunas will bring about different personalities. That is the reason somewhere sattva is a little more, somewhere rajas is a little more, somewhere tamas is a little more. So we find some person a little more contemplative or more tranquil than the other. We find another person more active or agitated than the other. We find that another person a little more dull or lethargic or lazy as compared to others. So thus we find everybody is all the three. But there is the difference in the combination of the three, and that explains the difference in the personality. So then what is it that distinguishes you from me? That you have one kind of personality, I have another kind of personality. But how about the person? The person that is manifesting in that personality and the person manifesting in this personality, are the persons really different? The answer is no, the person is one. Just as the bulbs can be many, the fans can be many, and have a lot of variety. So that is the personality of the bulbs and fans is different, but the electricity manifesting through them is one. So this is what Vedanta tells us, that the person, the self, the consciousness is one, non-dual, and therefore free from every limitation. This self manifests through a personality that is limited. The limitless manifesting through the limited. Electricity may be 66,000 volts, 132,000 volts where it is generated or where it is transmitted. It manifests through a little bulb of 15 watts or 25 watts. What is limited is the manifestation is limited, but what is manifesting is great. Similarly also, what is limited here is the life is limited. The expression through the personality is limited, but then what manifests, namely the person, is limitless. This limitless manifesting through the limited. So if you understand this difference, the limitations obtained at the level of the personality, and the vehicle, limitations obtained in the vehicle where the consciousness manifests, but the one that manifests, namely the person, is ever limitless. And therefore, I am limitless in spite of limitations in the body, in spite of limitations in sense organs, in spite of limitations in mind, in spite of limitations in intellect. Those limitations do not limit me. They create an appearance of limitation, but they do not limit me. And so we say that the doership, the agency of doing, agency of enjoying, all of this belongs to the personality, the prakriti. And the self is actionless. Meaning free from any activity, free from participation. It is, as we said, in the presence of self that all activities and everything takes place. What does actionless mean? So does it mean that I don't do anything at all? Actionless means we can understand that as the freedom from the need to do anything. Understand that whenever an action is performed, it is performed out of a certain need. When I do something, there is something that prompts me to do it. Therefore, action generally is an indication of an inner need. Because I am not satisfied with the way thing is, and therefore there is a need to bring about a change so that I become satisfied. And therefore, an action which brings about a change represents the fact that there is a need for change, and that as the things are, they are not satisfactory, and if some change or transformation is brought about, then they will become satisfactory. So what does action represent? Action represents a need, a lack, inadequacy. So we can say that action then can be equated to inadequacy. Or a lack or a need. So when you said Atma, the self, is actionless, which means that it is free from any lack, free from any need, free from any inadequacy. And therefore, there is complete tranquility here. Sometimes it is compared to the ocean, the waveless ocean. Generally, in ocean there are always waves, and waves represent activity, represent some restlessness. But imagine a waveless ocean. Ocean is infinite, and waveless ocean, that means an ocean of tranquility and infinity. So that is what the I, the self is, that is wholeness. Or as you say, a complete tranquility, a wholeness or fullness, and therefore a total freedom from any need, and therefore a total freedom from the need to do anything. And so we also know very well that in presence of certain, certain persons have their presence which creates a much greater impact than presence of other people. We also know that some people have a kind of impact that in their very presence things just happen. Sometimes we also feel like doing things for somebody without in fact somebody telling us to do, but the very presence thing take place. So imagine the self as the very presence, of which the impact is such that without any motion on the part of the self, things automatically take place. We gave the example of Lord Krishna in the morning. We said how in the very presence of Lord Krishna, how all the living creatures in that area in Vrindavan, all of them get enlivened, all of them get enthused, all of them get transfixed. And thus self is of the nature of presence, that limitlessness, wholeness, and therefore that is equated to actionlessness. Actionlessness is the freedom from need to perform action. Actionlessness should not be understood merely as something inactive, something inert. On the other hand, it is something living, at the same time totally free from the need to perform any action. Therefore, it also represents freedom. So this is an obtaining fact about the self, about myself, about everyone. And we have to recognize this fact and own up this fact. This is what Vedanta teaches. That do not judge yourself by the attributes or the qualities of the personality, which is what I am doing right now. Right now I am equating myself to the personality, judging myself from the standpoint of personality, and therefore judging myself as a limited being. And when I judge myself as a limited or inadequate being, there is definitely an urge to become free from that limitation. That's how the action originates. Thus action originates from an urge which arises from a sense of limitation, sense of inadequacy. Vedanta tells us that you are inherently not inadequate, you are not incomplete, inherently there is no lack in you, you are as you are, a whole, complete being. As I am. Not that level of body, somewhere some change must be brought about in order to become incomplete and become complete, that I am as I am, a complete being. This is the teaching of Vedanta and recognition of this fact. What happens is, this recognition becomes somewhat difficult on account of this personality. Which is made up of these three gunas: sattva, rajas and tamas. In rajas there is agitation, there is activity. In tamas there is dullness. In sattva there is tranquility. So what we have to do is, there is something to be done. What is to be done is that we have to slowly transform our personality into a sattvic personality. We have to become one in whom the sattva predominates. The rajas and tamas will be there in some measure. But rajas and tamas may be there in such a measure that they do not in any way control anything, impact anything. That is sattva, that is a predominant guna of predominant quality in my personality. This is what we have to do. This is what we call the sadhana. This is the sadhana, or this is the spiritual pursuit. And that is what Bhagavad Gītā teaches us. How most of the people who generally come to listen to Bhagavad Gītā are predominant in rajas. Because people having tamas or the dullness will not have, I guess, a motivation or the desire to listen to Bhagavad Gītā also. They don't even have a desire to grow, a desire to evolve. But people having rajas have a desire to become bigger than what they are, to evolve, to grow. And therefore, of course, tamas also is addressed. There is tamas, there is dullness. Person doesn't want to do anything. There is no motivation. And so, the tamas has to be transformed to rajas by commanding him, or by asking him, by enjoining him, that you have to perform your duty. If you don't do this, you are subject to punishment. Sort of a little thread is given there. And that's how a person who is predominantly dull in nature, or lazy or lethargic, is whipped up somewhat by also offering temptations to him. That look, if you do this, you will get heavens. If you do this action, you will get this pleasure. And that's how temptations are given to him on one hand. Threat also is given to him that if you fail to perform your duty, then these are the consequences, painful consequences. And that's how he is whipped into performance of action. And that's how, through activity, the tamas is slowly transformed to rajas. And when rajas is there, we want to slowly transform it to sattva. And that is where Bhagavad Gītā comes in. Because the person with predominance in rajas, as you say in the morning, there is a lot of selfishness there. There is a lot of, because there is a very keen sense of inadequacy, and therefore there is selfishness, there is greed, discontentment with oneself. And then he keeps on performing a lot of activities motivated by his greed, motivated by his sense of uncontentment. And then he is slowly advised that may you perform your activities in a spirit of selflessness. So from inactivity, we come to selfishness or selfish activity, and from that we come to what we call the selfless activity. From tamas to the rajas to the sattva. Of course, the person, the Purusha, is even beyond sattva. However, to recognize my true nature, I require a mind that enjoys sattva. Because we said, when the mind is sattvic, it is tranquil. It experiences that cheerfulness or happiness with its own nature. And when the mind experiences happiness by itself, then when it is told that you are happiness, it becomes easy to understand. Because otherwise when I am sad, or I am agitated and I am told that you are complete and you are ananda, you are happiness, it just doesn't make sense to me. And therefore, that wholeness should become a matter of my experience, and that happens in sattva. When my mind becomes predominantly sattvic, then the wholeness which is my nature, which is the nature of the person, that becomes a matter of my own experience. And then I am told that look, wholeness is what you are, that's when the teaching becomes effective. And so in order that the teaching of the Upanishads or Vedanta becomes meaningful to me, it becomes necessary that my mind should become predominantly sattvic. Therefore, in Bhagavad Gītā, in many places, the 14th chapter, the 17th chapter, and now in the 18th chapter, Lord Krishna gives us the different categories. What is jnanam, jnayam, jnanam karma cha karta cha. Lord Krishna said, look, the knowledge, the action, the doer of action, all of these can be classified into three categories: tamas, rajas, and sattva. So what's the nature of knowledge that originates from tamas? What's the nature of knowledge that originates from rajas? What's the nature of knowledge that originates from sattva? What's the nature of action that originates from tamas and rajas and sattva? How is this person, the performer of action? How is he when his mind is in predominance of tamas, when his mind is predominance of rajas, mind is predominance of sattva? When we understand this, the purpose of describing rajas and tamas is so that we can slowly get rid of that, and the purpose of describing sattva is that we can deliberately cultivate that, so that we recognize our own personality. We become aware of our own personality and recognize where tamas is, where rajas is. We identify those things and deliberately try to convert it into sattva. That becomes our sadhana. That becomes the pursuit of self-growth. So we would call this the self-growth when there is a transformation from tamas to rajas and rajas to sattva. This is a process of growth. Call it process of emotional maturity. And that is something that we have to carry out ourselves. And for that we get these directions or guidelines from the scripture. So now Lord Krishna will describe. The 19th verse told us, Jnanam karma cha karta cha tridhaiva guna bhedataha. Here Arjuna, this jnana, the knowledge, karma the action, karta the doer, guna bhedataha. They are threefold with reference to the differences in gunas or the sattva, rajas, tamas, and that is what now he is going to explain. So keep this picture in mind while we now try and analyze what's the nature of threefold knowledge, threefold action, threefold performer of action. So let's go to the next verse, the 20th verse. Sarvabhuteshu yenaikam Sarvabhuteshu yenaikam Bhavamavyayamikshate Bhavamavyayamikshate Avibhaktam vibhakteshu Avibhaktam vibhakteshu Tadjnanam vidhi satvikam Tadjnanam vidhi satvikam Tadjnanam vidhi satvikam Vidhi, may you know, Tadjnanam, that knowledge, Satvikam, born of Sattva. So word Satvika is derived from the word Sattva. Satvika means that which is born of Sattva. So when the mind enjoys these, what we call the Sattvic mode, when the mind is free from the impurities of Rajas and Tamas, so Rajas and Tamas also are called impurities. So when those impurities are removed, to the extent that they are removed, the mind becomes pure. So we can say that this is also the process of purification of the mind or process of self-purification. So you can call it self-purification, you can call it self-growth, you can call it emotional maturity, different names can be given. But what it is a conscientious effort to make our mind predominant in sattva. So when the mind is sattvic, the sattva is pure. When mind is pure, also it is objective. It sees the things as it is. When the mind is influence of rajas, it distorts. So rajas also is compared. Rajas means dust also, by the way. Rajas means dust also. So our mind can be compared to a pool of water. Let us say there is a pond of water. If in this water there is dirt or impurity, and the surface of water also is wavy, is disturbed, then we cannot see the bottom of that lake clearly at all. Perhaps if there is too much of impurity, we cannot see the bottom at all. And if you remove that impurity, and the surface of the water also becomes free from the disturbance, then that pool of water becomes a transparent pool of water. In your own swimming pool also you can see, when there is no dirt or impurity in the water, and the surface of the water also is calm, then that water becomes transparent. We can see through, and whatever is at the bottom becomes very clearly perceptible, visible. So this rajas and tamas, so tamas is compared to that impurity or the dirt. Rajas is compared to those that disturbances on the surface of the water. So just as water is free from impurity, tamas, and the disturbance, rajas, how it becomes transparent, how it becomes placid. Similarly also, from our mind, when this tamas, the darkness or dullness goes away, and rajas, the agitation goes away, the mind becomes tranquil, transparent. And then what happens? We can see through it. So just as when the water is pure and transparent, and we can see the bottom very clearly, similarly also, what is it at the bottom of the mind? That person. So when the personality becomes sattvic or transparent, then the person, you can imagine, which is the very support of that personality, becomes very clear. And therefore the person is self, with the nature of wholeness, fullness or ananda. That ananda also becomes evident. To the extent that the mind becomes sattvic, to that extent the wholeness or fullness, which is my nature, becomes clear. That's the reason why you find yourself being cheerful, you find yourself happy without any reason at all when the mind is sattvic. And when that water becomes transparent, how you can see things clearly? Similarly also, when the mind becomes transparent, we can see things clearly. We can see things as they are. It is that mind which has the capacity to distinguish between the person and the personality. So that mind can see the personality as personality and person as person. The matter as matter, the spirit as spirit. And that mind can see that, hey, all these personalities are made of three gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas, and that the consciousness manifesting through them is one alone. So when can I see this fact? Normally, all I can see, of course, what my eyes are going to see is merely what is, is merely what is evident, namely the body. But the person, the self, is seen in the mind's eye. I can see that the consciousness that is there, consciousness that is there, consciousness that is in all the living beings, not only in the human beings. These personalities are not only human beings. Mosquito also is a personality. Animals are also personalities. Trees are also personality. So what it is that distinguishes me from rest of them? The personalities. Even the consciousness obtaining in the mosquito is the same consciousness obtaining in me. So person is one in all the living creatures. Today, the next one will tell us, Rajasam Jnanam. But here is a sattvic person, a person enjoying a sattvic state of mind. He can clearly see the consciousness as one. His mind can distinguish between the person and the personality, the spirit and matter. And he sees this body-mind complex is personality, and the consciousness manifesting through that is one alone. Sarva Bhuteshu, in all the beings, beginning from the greatest one, that is called Brahma, the creator, all the way up to the smallest creature, in all the beings. Understand, the personality is always limited. It is always changing, subject to creation, sustenance, dissolution, subject to birth and death. So all the changes are there in the personality. In all of them, Sarvabhuteshu ekam avyayam bhavamikshate. One sees ekam, the one, avyayam, the changeless, bhavam, the person, the self. So one who sees the one non-dual, changeless self in all these personalities which are limited and changing, avibhaktam vibhakteshu, every personality is different. And that's how the creation is. No two things are identical. No two personalities are identical. I don't know what will happen when they're cloning and things like that, perhaps there is an attempt to make some two identical things. But I do not know about the mind, whether the two sheep or the two human beings that are cloned, they may have the same kind of body or organism. But whether the minds are also identical, I do not know. I don't care anyway. Vedanta doesn't care. Because personality, even if they are similar, at the moment, no two things are identical. No two things are identical. Everything is unique. That's a beauty also. But this uniqueness, these differences, this variety that we find in the universe, we can really enjoy it when we also understand the oneness obtaining in them. The variety in all the ornaments can be enjoyed when we know that the gold is the common element in all the ornaments. And then the ornaments are separate from each other from one standpoint, but in fact they are one also from another standpoint. And similarly also, all the beings are different from each other at one level, meaning the level of personality. But from the standpoint of person, the self, the Atma, the consciousness, that they are all one. Not they are one, in fact, they are all I. And therefore, the one who sees his own self in all the personalities. Like, there may be 500 mirrors in front of me. Each mirror may have a different characteristic. It may be all concave and convex mirrors and all different kinds of mirrors. And every mirror, perhaps my reflection may be different. And therefore, every reflection is different from every other reflection. What's the reason why the reflections are different? Because the mirrors have different characteristics. The mirrors are personalities. They are all different. Therefore, the reflections appear to be different. When I see all those 500 reflections, I still see one thing common in them. What is that? I see I in all of them. Even though in a concave mirror I may look like this, I may look fat and chubby. In a convex mirror I may look just tall and lean. Funny. In Ahmedabad, where I come from, there is a little amusement park for children, and there is one section where there are all different kinds of mirrors. You stand in front of the mirror and see your reflection and enjoy it. In one mirror, you appear so fat, as I said, so chubby. Other mirror, you just look tall and like a little stick, like a stick. Every mirror is different. And anybody goes there, he will laugh definitely. Laugh at what? Laugh at his own reflection. Thank God that there is a viveka discrimination that reflection I am not. Suppose that is not there. If I think that what appears in mirror is what I am, I see myself so fat and chubby, right away I'll come home and start dieting, I'll starve myself because I have become so fat. But everyone knows that. I don't know how much children enjoy this. But the elders enjoy it much more than children because I guess they understand this mechanism better. And thus, even though every reflection is different, I still recognize myself, oneself in all of them. Who is the self of all those reflections? I, the image, is the self of all those reflections, is it not? It is I that is reflecting and reflected in that, manifesting in them. What is it that makes one reflection different from the other? Well, it is a characteristic of a mirror that creates an appearance of difference. And even when they all appear different, in fact, they are all one only. This is what a wise person says. This is a knowledge of a wise person. Avibhaktam bhakteshu, that all the beings, in fact, are different. Each one is unique. Each one is different. And still, in all the differences, in all the divisions, he sees the undivided, non-different. In all the changing, he sees the changeless. In all the perishable, he sees the imperishable. In many, he sees the one. Tajnanam viddhi satvikam. Here Arjuna, know that knowledge to be born of sattva. This is the knowledge that Upanishads or Vedanta in fact reveal. And this is knowledge that we have to gain. And therefore, when can that knowledge be gained? When the mind becomes purely sattvic. That's the reason why we have to recognize yes and tamas in our own personality and very deliberately try to remove them. What happens when the mind is predominant in rajas? The next verse tells us what the perception is when the mind is predominant in rajas. It is in the next page, opposite page. Pruthatvena tu yajnanam nana bhavan pruthagvidhan vetti sarveshu bhuteshu tadjnanam viddhi rajasam. Two, on the other hand, yajnanam, that knowledge by which one sees pruthatvena nana bhavan prutagvidhan. One sees the differences which are there, of course, but that's how far one's perception goes. Whether am I able to penetrate the differences and see the non-different? That is sattva. So sattvic mind is the one who is able to penetrate these apparent differences and is able to spot the non-different. But the mind, under influence of rajas, cannot penetrate this, meaning that it only looks upon what is perceived as real. And therefore, what we perceive through our sense organs are all the differences. Pruthatvena sthitan. So pruthatvena sthiteshu sarvabhuteshu. All the beings are in fact, they're obtained as different from each other. What does he see? He sees nana bhavan, he sees many self. His conclusion is that each one, each personality has a different person, has a different self, and that each self is different from every other self. Prithak Vidhan, each self is different. So Nana Bhavan, meaning that the self in each being is different. Prithak Vidhan, and that each one differs from the other. Somebody is happy, one self is happy, other self is unhappy, one is good, other is bad, and therefore he thinks that all goodness, badness, happiness, unhappiness, doership, enjoyership, all of these in fact are the attributes of the self. Meaning in this mind, there is no distinction between the person and the personality, the whole thing is taken to be one. The personality is taken to the person, the non-self is taken to be the self. And therefore, all the differences obtaining at the level of the personality, at the level of the body-mind complex, are in fact taken to be the differences in the person. Like, sometimes in the weddings, there are all these lights, the light bulbs are there, little ones, some are green and some are red and some are yellow, this lighting is there. So somebody may feel that the electricity is red, electricity is yellow, electricity is green. One who doesn't know that in fact, when I see a light bulb, there is a union of two factors, this bulb and the electricity. So he takes them to be one. Like the crystal, for example. So, when someone sees a crystal, when there is a pink flower in front of the crystal, then the crystal appears to be pink. And when there is an orange cloth, the crystal may appear to be orange. When there is something, of a different color, crystal may appear to be a different color. So, there is one who understands that these colors appearing in the crystal, they do not belong to crystal, they belong to something else. And therefore, even when the crystals appear to be of different colors, he knows that the crystal by itself is pure, colorless, because he will distinguish in his mind between what is crystal and what is non-crystal. That this color is non-crystal, and the crystal, even while appearing to be colored, is in fact colorless and pure. This is distinction. There is sattva. When sattva is there, this viveka, the discrimination is there. When rajas is there, the viveka is not there. So this fellow, having rajogam, when he sees a pink crystal, he thinks that this is pink crystal. And then he says, this is orange crystal. And this is black crystal, whatever. And thus, he concludes that every crystal is different from every other crystal. That's all. The crystal, even when it appears to be red or orange, doesn't become orange. Understand? This is very important. Even when the crystal appears to be orange, it doesn't become orange. It just appears to be orange. So orange is the personality. The crystal is compared to the person. The orange color is what? The personality. The pink color is what? The personality. The red color is personality. Brown color is personality. Where is the difference? Difference is in personality. But the crystal, the person, is the same in all of them. And this is what you recognize. If this is recognized, if you recognize the one in the many, we recognize that in spite of differences obtaining in the personalities, that in fact each one of us is one self. Can there be any conflict? Can there be any division? Can there be any competition? Can there be any conflict in the world? This knowledge will bring to an end all the divisions, all the conflicts, all the problems can be solved. Every problem can be solved when this knowledge is there. Is it not so? I am white, I am black, I am American, I am Indian, I am Hindu, I am Muslim, I am man, I am woman, I am old, I am young. Everything creates division. I speak English, I speak French, so language also creates difference. The race also creates difference. The religion also creates difference. The nationality also creates difference. The color of skin also creates difference. Everything creates difference. And differences become the issue. We make these apparent differences issues and then fight with each other. Try to control others, try to dominate others, try to exploit others, try to assert upon other people. All of this fighting, controlling, assertion, all of this is when? How? Why? That is because we take each one of us as inherently different from each other, whereas the differences are incidental. just the crystal appearing of different color, that's an incidental difference. Inherently, crystal is ever one, ever pure. And so also if you recognize that the difference obtaining among all of us are only incidental. Like one gold appearing in many forms which you call ornament. The names are different, the forms are different, the use is different. One is called a bangle, which has one name, one form and one use. Other is called the earring, which has different name, form and the use. A third can be a necklace, which has a different use and so forth. So even with the name and the form and use, they are all different, and still they are one. If that is not known, then the bangle will compete with the necklace and think that the necklace has a superior place, the poor bangle has an inferior place. Whatever. And the necklace may feel that the bangle is luckier than I am, whatever it is. So all these fighting, all this competition, and it can never go as long as a duality is taken to be real. It always remains. The only way to overcome the duality, the differences, the impact created by disparity is by knowing that in all the divisions, in all that is dissimilar, in fact, there is oneness, there is similar, there is unity. The unity in diversity, the oneness in many, the limitless in limited, the undivided in apparent divisions, the limitless in limited. When this is known as my own self, and that's the self of all, then there's complete tranquility, because the mind becomes totally free from any need to assert, any need to fight, any need to do anything, to bring about any change. That's how one gains a complete, a total tranquility. This is a solution for all freedom from stress, from freedom from all conflicts, freedom from every problem that is there in the world is there in this knowledge. But Swami, how will this knowledge will remove starvation? How will it remove poverty? How will it remove illiteracy? It will remove. Because right now, since I think that I am different from you, therefore, whatever belongs to me is mine, and then, and therefore I don't give it to you. I hold on to it. But when this is not so, then all the resources of earth will become available to all the beings of the earth. Then suppose all the resources of earth are really divided, justly divided among all the living beings, there will be no starvation. And all the resources and technology available to everybody are made available to the rest of the world, there will be no poverty, there will be no illiteracy, it will all go away. Understand that all these problems of poverty, starvation, illiteracy, all of these are created by human beings on account of ignorance, on account of non-discrimination, on account of taking the apparent duality in the personality as really different, as a person being different. And that's how, when the dual division is there is going to be assertion, competition, control. So understand that Vedanta presents solution to every problem in the world, every problem, this knowledge. And that is how Vedanta says that every problem in the creation is out of ignorance, and that every problem can be solved by knowledge. And it can be solved only by knowledge. We can get a relief from the problem by certain good attitudes and values, yes. The attitude of compassion and sharing and charity, all of these will definitely minimize the impact of the problem, but the problem can be finally solved only when this knowledge is there. But anyway, whether the rest of the world bothers about it or not, we definitely know that to the extent that we have this knowledge, to that extent, our mind becomes free from the conflict, and we can enjoy the tranquility then. But Swami, this looks like all self-centered thing, This becomes only your knowledge. What about other people? But one good person, they say that one good person is that much less problem to the world anyway. But anyway, also, a person like that just becomes blessing by his very presence. And so, thus, this is the sattvic jnana, the knowledge or the perception based on rajas is giving reality to what appears on the surface. And not ever inquiring as to whether the differences appearing at the surface of the perceptual level, are they the real differences? Even the scientists also tell us today that all the differences appearing in the matter, really, all of them, this matter, ultimately originates from energy. Everything is energy. And what is matter is nothing but the waves of energy, and therefore the differences appearing in matter, all of them resolve when we look upon them as energy. Then what to talk of all differences resolving when we look upon everything as consciousness? Everything is nothing but consciousness, or the self, or the person, or the whole, or limitless. Purnamadaha, Purnamidam. This self is complete, and this world also is complete. I am complete, and you are complete. Purnameva avashishyate. When the apurnata, the incompleteness born of ignorance goes away, Purnameva avashishyate, all that remains is nothing but wholeness or completeness. This is the vision of Vedanta. However, this jnanam, the knowledge or perception that is born of rajas, takes what appears to be to the eyes as the ultimate truth, and therefore these people conclude that there are as many atmas, as many persons of self, as many living beings, as many personalities are there, and therefore the differences obtaining the personality are taken to be the differences of the self. And therefore the self of woman is different, self of man is different, self of mosquito is different, self of human being is different, every self is different. Having different attributes, different qualities. Tajnanam, Vidhirajasam. In fact, there are philosophies, like in Vedic culture itself, there are what we call the Nayayikas, all of them. They say that the Atma is different in all the living beings, and so differences are there. The self is different, person is different, personality is different. Atma is different, Anatma is different. And God is different. Then one personality is different from the other personality. The Jiva is different from other Jiva. The Jiva is different from Jagat, the creation. Jagat is different from Ishvara, the Lord. And Jiva is also different from Ishvara. Jagat also different from Ishvara. One Jiva different from other Jiva. One name and form different, other name and form. All kinds of differences are there in this perception born of Rajas. And therefore, you see, ultimately understand that whatever we do is all based on our perception. What is most important is, what am I? I am as good as what my perception is. If my perception is one of non-duality, that's what I am. If my perception is one of duality, well, that's what I am. Therefore we say that Vedanta in fact seeks to change that very perception. And then everything else will automatically change. And how is the knowledge born of tamas? The verse 22 says that Yattu krishnavade kasmin karye saktamahaitukam atatvarthavadalpancha tattamasamudahritam. This knowledge born of tamas is even more inferior to this, where somebody says that this body alone is a self. Further, at least the rajas fellow knows that anyway self are all different, but this fellow who has the mind which is tamas, he says, this Charvakas, the materialists say that this body is a self. And their concept of God is what? Somebody says, well, this image is God. So they confine self also to just one body, or they confine God also to just one personality. Ekasmin kare ahetukam saktam. Ekasmin kare. Just in one object. That one object or one thing is taken to be God. This is God, that's all, One image is God. Nothing else, nothing more, nothing less. Or the body alone is a self. The self is only of the size of the body, of the nature of the body. Ahetukam. And there is no hetu. This is irrational. And so this conclusion or perception which is not based on reasoning. If one body is Atma, other body also should be Atma, but then no, one alone is Atma. If one form is God, other form also can be God, but no, this form alone is God. And therefore, this kind of very rigid and narrow-minded conclusions that they have, which are not based on reasoning or rationality, irrational, atatvarthavat, and therefore it is without truth, alpamcha, and therefore it is very limited. But the concept of God also becomes very limited. When concept of self also becomes very limited. And which is without the truth, which is without the reason. But just because of some fanaticism, or because of some insistence, just hold on to this idea, Tat Tamasamudharutam, our God alone is a God, your God is not. This is the God, So what this religion says is the real God, other fellows do not know what it is. This form alone is God, other forms are not God. This alone is a self, other things are not self. If the body is a self, every body should be self. And the body is made of 5 elements, all 5 elements should be self. Everything made of 5 elements should be self. At least that much, some reasoning must be there, no such reasoning. And therefore, their minds are very, very, they are narrow-minded people. They become very fanatic, very assertive. Tat Tamasamudharutam, this fanaticism is when the tamas is there, because person cannot think at all. There is no reasoning. It is just taken for granted. Tat Tamasamudharutam, this kind of knowledge is called knowledge born of tamas. And thus we find these different people in the world having different perceptions about God, different perceptions about the self. And it doesn't matter what the perception is. But the mind is open, then at least we are willing to learn what someone else has to say, and maybe if we find that to be making more sense, then we are willing to change. But these people are not available for reasoning. So their conclusion is based on without reasoning, and no reasoning can ever shake them up, and therefore they will hold on to those conclusions. So therefore, this perception of conclusions based on rajas, what that conclusion is, what's the nature of conclusion based on tamas? When we find those conclusions arising in our own mind, Lord Krishna says, be alert and try to, so be alert and be vigilant and try to resolve them and displace it by the conclusion that must be sattvic. Whenever my mind comes up with the thought, that person is different, I am different, remind myself, wait a minute, the personality is different, the person is not different. The self that is there is self that I am. And that's what counts. That is what important. That's what is important. The personality is merely a medium for manifestation of self. And therefore, it should not. What should be important? The spirit is important. The matter is subservient. For rajas, the matter becomes important. Spirit becomes subservient. For sattva, the spirit is important. The matter is subservient. This is how it should happen in our life. The spirit is important. And the matter must be subservient. When there is a conflict between the spirit and matter, spiritual values and material values, which should be given importance? The spiritual value. And that one should be willing to let go the material values and material gains. We'll discuss that, but this is how this knowledge, this is how this analysis helps us in our day-to-day life to how we arise from the level of tamas to the level of rajas, from the level of rajas to the level of sattva. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Vadarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavadvyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.